All right, folks. So I've been looking at the ROG Ally X for quite some time, and the ROG Ally in terms of what they're capable of, what exclusive skills they have. And so I came across this video by ETA Prime, which I'm going to react to. ROG Xbox Ally is a game changer. Windows handhelds will never be the same. And obviously, I've been talking quite highly and praising the new ROG in terms of its features that are going to be at least timed exclusive to it, but just what Windows on this device has done in terms of removing the bloatware and providing you with, a OS experience that's both user friendly, easy to use, and super lightweight, which is what something Windows was missing all along. But hey, if you enjoyed this content and want to see more like this, hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell to stay up to date with all content I release. Let's see if we can get to 100 likes in this video. Okay, let's give this video a shot. Let's make a start, and let's go.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's ETA Prime back here again. Finally back from Germany after checking out the new ROG Xbox Ally and the Ally X. It was a pretty good time. Asus and Xbox had a crazy booth with a giant ROG Xbox Ally X up top. It was pretty insane. I mean, they kind of went all out for this whole setup here. I spent a lot of hands-on time with both of the devices, and there was a few things that I wasn't able to film, but
So this is the thing. The original ROG was a really good machine, really powerful, and did what it was supposed to do. But it didn't have the marketing fanfare. Asus now teaming up with Xbox is providing that marketing fanfare. And what Asus hopes from this is that with all this awareness now around it, because this device definitely has a lot more attention for it, whether it's hate from the PlayStation fans or love from the Xbox fans, it's clear that it now has more eyes on it in order for it to gain more traction, more interest. Clearly, price will be the big factor here, but there's no denying right now that the ROG Xbox Ally and the ROG Xbox Ally X has a magnanimous amount of attention focused upon it now that Xbox is involved, and Asus is trying to make full use of this.
in this video, I kind of wanted to talk about the software. Now, we know what kind of hardware we've got here. There's two different models, and the one that I'm most excited about is the ROG Xbox Ally X. It's got that Ryzen Z2 Extreme 80 watt-hour battery and the same 7-inch 120Hz display that we see in the original ROG Ally and the Ally X right now. And I do think that Asus, Xbox, and Microsoft are taking great steps forward when it comes to Windows on a handheld. They've got a lot of great ideas. Hopefully it's implemented properly. And during my hands-on, I was able to test out a few of the new features here. And in this video, I wanted to talk about these new software changes when it comes to Windows on a handheld. Once the ROG Xbox Ally and the Ally X are released, I do think we'll see all of these features backported to the original Ally, the Ally X, and other handhelds. I mean, that's
the plan, right? That they've always said that the new devices from Asus are going to have it first. That's the deal they've done with Microsoft, and then later devices will get it. I do believe that the ROG family will get them first before it goes over to Lenovo and MSI and everyone else. So if you want that premium experience from the get-go, the Xbox ROG Ally is the way to go, or the Ally X.
not going to be much stopping us from installing something like this on a third-party handheld. And of course, as it is right now, running Windows on a handheld can be a bit cumbersome. Navigation isn't great, so that's exactly what Xbox and Asus are trying to fix here.
So one of the big things that the Steam Deck has going for it is the trackpads, and it's crazy that even now, as valuable as it is, none of these companies are willing to put a trackpad like Steam Deck did onto the actual device. Honestly, that's what makes the Steam Deck stand out from everyone else. Not these controller grip-ons or the way the Steam Deck is or the price or Steam itself. No, it's the actual trackpads. If you start using those and then go to something different, it's really hard to go to something different after you've used those trackpads. It changed, and Windows itself would just be so much more easier to use if it had those trackpads and not the analog sticks. So I'm a little disappointed that they didn't even add just one trackpad for you to use, but it is what it is. But they have been doing work, they have been doing strides, and they've made great leaps in making this UI really, really user-friendly.
So basically, when booting up the new ROG Xbox Ally and Ally X, we're going to come to a menu that looks just like this.
Basically,
The
PC
Windows
Game Pass.
desktop is not going to load. It's going to save around 2 gigs of memory. So we don't have to worry about that. And at any given time, you can actually open up the game bar and enable the desktop. So you can get right over there if you want
That's huge, by the way. 2 gigs of memory being saved. That's 2 gig of bloat that you don't have to contend with when you're playing your games.
to. But if you're strictly looking for a handheld gaming experience, it's going to boot up to something that looks kind of like this. We've also got the aggregated games library. We'll always have Game Pass here. If we go to our library, you'll see that each one of these has a little bit of a different icon by it. All of my stuff is Steam here. So this is just scan my default directories, and you can actually get this right now on your PC or handheld. Not all of the features are going to be available, but the aggregated library is. It'll get you right to home. You can jump right back in. You can find new games. Should be pretty nice, and not having to deal with the desktop is really awesome.
So this is Microsoft's big aim to kind of bring everything together into one space. And this isn't just for Steam. You can have Epic, you can have Battle.net, you can have your Xbox library, I think GOG is also included in there. EA is also included in there. So this is their kind of way to say, hey, we don't want you having a bad experience by jumping from launcher to launcher, because we know how PC people don't like this. So what we're doing with this UI is bringing everything into one. If you want to go and use your own launcher, you've got the option to do that. But if you just want to pick up and play, this UI that we have here right now is basically going to cover you.
Another thing we're going to have here is the ability to log in just with the controller. So you're going to set up a PIN like you would with any Windows installation. With the ROG Xbox Ally's built-in controller, we can input our PIN right there, just like we would, let's say, on the Xbox right now. Pretty neat little feature. Armoury Crate SE is going to be baked into the game bar, and we can access this at any given time by pressing that Xbox button on the ROG Xbox Ally. So
Armoury Crate is basically ASUS's own kind of UX UI tool base.
we can change the TDP from here, resolution. We can bring up an on-screen keyboard, change it from gamepad mode to desktop mode, change.
You can see turbo over there. That is basically when you've got it plugged in. It's going to get a little hot, but you're going to get the best performance.
The refresh rate, just like we would with Armoury Crate right now on the Ally and the Ally X. From the initial boot, not even seeing the desktop on these handhelds is going to be a real treat. Of course, it's going to save memory. They stated it's going to save around 2 gigs of memory, but another thing it's going to save is just CPU headroom, because all of the tasks that are needed to run that desktop don't need to be run here. And if you open up a task manager right now in Windows 11, you'll notice that there's a lot of stuff running even when you're just sitting idle.
There is.
And even though we've got a gaming handheld here, Microsoft and Xbox still want to push some AI capabilities. With the ROG Xbox Ally X, we get that Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme. So we've got that NPU. And one thing that they've been showing off recently is their built-in gaming co-pilot. Basically an AI assistant for games, and it is game aware. So right now it knows I'm running Doom: The Dark Ages, and you can ask it several different questions. But we've also got a little section here. What can you do for me? It's going to give you a list of everything that it can do. And right now, at the time I'm making this video, it is game aware, but it doesn't know exactly where you are in a game. I was actually just trying to ask it, where are the secrets in this level? Obviously, it doesn't know, so you will have to input that level, and it can actually just.
I mean, at the end of the day, with what this is AI regurgitating information for you. It's kind of like all preset. It's looking at the hookups to see what you're playing. But if you want specifics, you're going to have to ask for those specifics. It's not going to just magically tell you where you are. If you want to know where the secrets are for level 4, you're going to have to say, I'm on level 4. Can you show me where the secrets are for Doom: The Dark Ages? And then it will do that. But I think this is actually quite cool. And what this does is basically make websites even less relevant. Obviously, this is actually pulling from the websites. So it's kind of hurting the website. This is the whole problem with AI, right? AI is there to regurgitate information to you, but you're no longer giving those websites the clicks that they need in order to keep the websites running, because that's how they fund their stuff, either through ads or through clicks or through sponsorships. But you're essentially removing that click revenue entirely, which then means that the ad revenue isn't getting as much as it needs, because they're not making, they're not getting any people going there. So it's a catch-22, this whole thing, and Google at the moment doesn't really have a solution for it. And I don't think anyone will, because at the end of the day, it's a vicious circle where they just consume each other.
Search online and find those for you. Give you a little readout here. Not sure how much I'm going to be utilizing this, but it might come in handy for some people out there. Another thing that Xbox announced was their handheld compatibility program, kind of like Steam Deck Verified, but they've gone through a bunch of games, and I guess right now it's just for the Game Pass stuff and stuff that's on the Windows Store. They're going to have a little bit of a rating telling us if the game's fully compatible, mostly compatible, not playable. This will be really great for people who just want to get into a game that works properly on these handhelds. Another thing they've got going on
100% I agree with that. And I suspect most games will work perfectly fine.
here are pre-cached shader packs that you can download with the game. So a lot of these newer AAA
So these pre-cached shader packs that you can download, this is done over the cloud that you can now download. It kind of pre-caches them for you. This is exclusive at the time of release for the ROG Xbox Ally X and ROG Xbox Ally. This won't be available on other devices. You still need to go through the standard form of shader caching. Now, the cool thing about this is that eventually this is not only just going to be passed out around to other mobile devices, PC handhelds, but this will also be going to desktops as well, which is really cool because it just means that when you're downloading your digital game, this can pre-download with it, and you don't have to go through the whole shader caching process at all. It's done, and then you don't have to rely on the game that's going to be, downloading those shaders on the fly, because some games actually do that. They don't download all the shaders, they download what you need, and then continually as you're playing, it downloads those shaders, and then that causes stuttery.
games hitting the market do need to cache shaders before the game really starts up, and you might have seen screens that look like this or this. Sometimes it can take quite a while, especially on a lower-end mobile chip like we have here. So what Xbox is going to do is cache those shaders server-side, so you don't have to worry about wasting battery, and you're going to download that pack with the game. So as soon as it installs, you can get up and playing without having to cache those shaders. And the last thing I wanted to talk about here is something that I'm really
Which is exactly what I just said.
interested in, and it has to do with the NPU in that Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme. I personally love playing my handhelds in dock mode, connected to a larger display and a dock, whether I'm using just like a little external dongle or, a full-fledged dock with a bunch of ports on it.
And this is the beauty of all these PC handhelds. They essentially act like a proper PC because they are a laptop, essentially, but just in handheld form, which is great.
Getting over to the big screen with a wireless controller is awesome. And what Asus and Xbox are going to do here is pretty great. We're actually going to be able to utilize the NPU in this thing to upscale our games on the big screen. Right now, at the time of making this video, they only stated that this is going to work on external displays, but I don't see why it couldn't work on the internal display. But either way, they've only been talking about this with external displays, but what we're getting here is automatic super resolution powered by the NPU. So since it's running on the NPU,
This is the Auto SR that's going to be that's going to basically come with this device.
it looks like the X version is the only one that's going to be able to work with. Now, I'm not sure if they'll change this down the road, some way to use the GPU for this, but the only time we've seen something like this is with the Qualcomm Snapdragon Elite chips. It does work pretty well over there, and I do hope they can bring this to the internal display, but this is really awesome, and it's a good use case scenario for an NPU. For me, using AI on it, it's okay. I personally don't use it much, but this is something I've been really waiting for. So yeah, I'm really excited about the upcoming ROG X.
It's a bit of a shame that the ROG Ally doesn't have this, but it's because it doesn't really have an NPU. So, in all honesty, if you're going to buy this device, it's either X or don't bother, in my opinion.
Xbox Ally and Ally X, but
I mean, the Auto SR isn't a deal breaker, to be fair, so that's been a bit kind of snotty, to be fair. The ROG Ally still has its place because you've got the, if you're happy with the current ROG and you just want an improvement upon it, or you want the new model, the Ally is perfectly fine. The Xbox ROG Ally is an adequate replacement. But if you want all the bells and whistles, you do need to go for the X, and that's why it's more expensive.
if we can get all of these features over on other handhelds, then I'd be stoked even more. I think this is just kind of the first foot in the door for Windows on handhelds getting optimized all the way across the board. Is it going to be able to take on Steam OS? Well, at the time of making this video, we have no clue. I mean, we really haven't been able to test all of the features just yet. But as soon as I can get my hands on one of these and make a bunch of videos without being kind of monitored making videos on it, I will show everything off with these handhelds. I'd love to get my hands on both of these, but of course I'm more excited about the Ally X version with that Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme. But I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. I mean, if we get a more streamlined version of Windows for a handheld, would you consider using this over something like SteamOS? And
100%. Number one, it's Windows, which means it's compatible with everything. It's got all the launchers. There's no faffing about or anything like that. You know, if you want to use Epic, you want to use GOG, you want to use Blizzard.net, you don't have to mess around with all of that. You can just play it. Secondly, it plays everything. In terms of compatibility, the only thing that will stop this from being compatible is the hardware specs itself, which then applies to the Steam Deck as well. But with the Steam Deck, because it's running on Steam OS and you've got Kernel 0 locked down, stuff like Game Pass can't work on there. And so you have other bigger problems. Easy Anti-Cheat just isn't easy to run on there. It's, you know, companies just don't want it because it needs to access Kernel 0. Now, Valve has done some work in order to alleviate this, but that still hasn't, you know, sorted the whole problem out. If you want to be able to play all your games, including doing some homebrew on there, this really is the device to go over the Steam Deck. However, if you just want to play a select number of games on your Steam OS, then the Steam Deck is a viable option. For me personally, not being able to install Game Pass, not being able to play some of the free-to-play games that I personally play, or the multiplayer games that I play on the Steam Deck, that to me is a deal breaker. But hey, it might not be for you. But I think that with the way that they have de-bloated it, this is definitely a step in the right direction, and this is where they want to be. Don't forget, they freed up 2 gigs of memory. That technically means that you have not 24 gigs of memory, but 26. Because if you assume Windows consuming what it would have done previously, you're now gaining more memory bandwidth because it's not being instantly taken away by the thing. Now, I know me saying 26 doesn't make much sense, but I hope you get the point I'm trying to make. At 24 gig, if Windows was consuming 4 gigabytes, you would have 20 gigabytes remaining. Now you're going to have 22. That's 2 extra you wouldn't have before. And so if we assume Windows being the way it would have been of old, and if we look at the system without these benefits that we're getting now with the new UI, it would have needed a 26 gigabyte memory in order to attain that. That's huge. That is absolutely huge.
if you have any ideas for new features that could come to Windows on handhelds, let us know down below. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. Like always, thanks for watching.
I'm going to have a link to this video in the description below. Please go there, leave it a view, and drop a like. ETA Prime is really awesome. They do lots of handheld content. But yeah, I think the Xbox Ally is going to be a really big deal. Microsoft is investing a lot in this. They just need to work with Asus to get the price at the right point. I think at $8,900, it's going to be too salty and too pricey for a lot of people. But I think at $699, it may just be a little more acceptable for a lot of the masses, especially in this economic climate where we're at. I really think price is going to dictate just how well this does. There's going to be the outliers that will buy regardless of price. Those aren't the audience that you want to look at. You want to look at the other 99% who are keenly waiting to see if they can afford this device. That's your audience. That's the one you should be encompassing, because that 1%, sure, they're going to buy it, but they're not going to be enough, in my opinion. But hey, time will tell. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Did you enjoy this react? And if you did, do hit that like, subscribe, hit that bell to know all content I release. And we are trying to get 100 likes in this video, so hopefully we can get that. Right, folks, don't forget to share if you would. That would be really helpful, but I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.